Whitney and Brandon Cawood are here to tell the story of their massive project, To Die For, a documentary. Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm excited about this. I'm going to let you guys do most of the talking today, not because I'm lazy, although I kind of am, but to let you tell your story because you have a lot to say and you can do it better than I can. So who are Whitney and Brandon Cawood?
Wow, what a loaded question. Well, I mean, first of all, we're a married couple and we're parents. So, I mean, that is really, a big part of who we are. We're Christ followers, so we love the Lord. And this project was really inspired by all of those things that I just mentioned.
And I guess by the title, you can guess we are also filmmakers. First-time filmmakers at that.
Yeah, of course. And so our film is inspired by our experience with our son, but it's also very much driven by our desire to help other people who are going through a similar experience. So we have a crazy story and a story that kind of felt unbelievable. So we, at one point, were just kind of keeping it to ourselves. And once we started sharing our story, we realized that our experience was not uncommon. And that kind of created a bit of anger in us and also a bit of curiosity in that we didn't know what was going on. And the anger coming from their children and people who are hurting that have no idea that the culprit of their suffering could be something as simple as synthetic dyes.
Which is what the film is about, synthetic dyes.
Yeah. So if you don't know what synthetic dyes are
food coloring.
Basically, yeah, food coloring. So you'll hear it called artificial dyes. You'll hear it called synthetic dyes, food dyes.
Color.
Yeah, so Rev 40, blue 1. So we're talking about the color and a number here in the U.S. is usually how it's labeled in food. So that's what our film is about.
And it all stemmed, like Whitney said, from what happened with our son when he was in between 1 and 3. Do you want to kind of tell his story?
Yeah, we'll give a little backstory. So between the ages of 1 and 3, our son was a bit of a mystery. He was having a lot of issues with keeping his hands to himself, with behavior. He was at the early ages, well, even at 3, 1 through 3, he was biting and hitting and pushing and just like a lot of aggression to the point where there was a teacher at the Mother's Morning Out he was at. So at Mother's Morning Out, if you don't know what that is, it's a half-day daycare. So from like 9 to like 11:30, he was at a daycare. So which allowed me to have a little bit of time to work. So I would drop him off, and several days a week, we were getting phone calls, several write-ups, even we had several days where it was like 3 or 4 write-ups in one day. And he was just there such a short period of time, and he was just obviously really struggling. He was struggling with friendship. He was like, it was an issue at home with us. And so we were on kind of pins and needles trying to figure out what was going on with him. And so it was getting worse and worse, and it really culminated when we were asked to leave that daycare, and we were really at a crossroads. And so I started searching what foods could cause hyperactivity, or not hyperactivity, what foods could cause neurologic issues with children. And food dyes came up, and in that article, food dyes, wheat and dairy were the main culprits that this article actually highlighted. So I took out all of those from his diet, and 48 hours later, we saw a crazy noticeable difference. And so what the craziest part about it is really he was only consuming synthetic dyes daily from a daily allergy medicine, the occasional prescription medication. And of course, we'd go to birthday parties and things like that. But we weren't giving him the sugary cereals and the sugary candies. He really had not had a whole lot of experience with those kind of foods. So it's pretty shocking to us that he, within 48 hours, went from being so just so hard to reason with and so upset and so distraught. And he was so upset whenever you would try to correct him that you really could not make any progress with him behaviorally. And so to go from that to, he stopped hitting us I mean, that month for 30 days straight, that month he might have hit us one time and you could reason with him. And so it was pretty crazy to have that experience. And it was just such a dramatic change that we almost kind of kept it to ourselves. And then once we started sharing our story, we really found out that this is not a super uncommon experience. It was much more common than we were expecting.
And one of the reasons that Whitney even went down the route of looking into diet is, one, she has a history of food allergies. And so she's done these elimination diets. But also the reason we weren't super keen on like getting him diagnosed with a diagnosis is because he wasn't acting like this all the time. We would have these moments or these days where he was like super easy to reason with and he was happy. And so we were seeing this glimpse of a kid throughout this time that like, we know that's who he is, but we think that there's something going on to cause these emotions and aggression. And so, we didn't want to jump into getting a diagnosis of ADHD or something like that. So Whitney really wanted to see if we could try eliminating stuff from his diet before we went the route of that.
Well, and that's honestly the route we were going down. I mean, the school he was at, they wanted to start an RTI on him, which is response to intervention. It's a plan which would be really advantageous for certain kids and really helpful. But we didn't want to do that at 3 because we saw those days where he was a completely different kid and he was just not consistent. So we were looking at a diagnosis, and even whenever we consulted with our doctors and therapists, a lot of this is quote unquote normal for 3-year-olds, but it was just the frequency it was happening was not normal. And the switches between one child, him being one child to being a completely different child was just really dramatic.
And so that really this whole thing really sent Whitney down like the rabbit hole of wanting to find out more information about dyes and how common is this? Like she said, we slowly realized that it's much more common. And she started a Facebook group that over the past 2 years has grown from 0 to 550,000 members, all focused on, how to live a lifestyle without synthetic dyes. And so it's that group is mainly focused around like parents kind of taking the plunge into living what we call dye free, which is technically it's synthetic dye free. You can still eat, natural dyes and stuff. But, and so people will come on there like, my kid really likes this food, but it has dye. Is there an alternative for that I can find? And so it's just a bunch of, to be honest, it's mostly moms, a bunch of moms, a few dads and, parents that come on this page looking for advice or wanting to give advice. And it's, that group has grown crazily and it's all been organic. So, and even at the beginning, that growth was pretty crazy at the beginning.
Thousands and thousands of new members a day, literally.
And that's kind of how this whole documentary happened. Whitney went down the rabbit hole. She started looking at all this research. We realized it was a lot more common than we realized. And but all the science and all the information out there was complicated and it was hard to understand. So she wanted to talk to the researchers, and that turned into her coming to me and, saying, why don't we make this documentary? And that's kind of where it happened.
Okay, so that's a great introduction. I can lead me to some more intelligent questions. And I've seen a cut or a version of the film that you showed back in March on campus. But I understand it's still in process.
Yeah, we said this then too, but we're obviously a lot further along now. We're at the tail end of post-production. As far as the content in the film, I'm pretty much done. We have one little clip that we're adding at the end. I think the ending you saw ended with another family. We've decided to wrap the film up with a little piece from our family. We feel like that will kind of shift a little better into the credits or whatever. But other than that, we've got everything filmed. We just got a couple little B-roll clips here, and I've got here's my wall of sticky notes. I've got 4 songs left to compose. So we're very, very close to being done. So
that's a segue into explaining. We are every piece of this documentary. And because we're on such a micro budget, we've had to both just take on so many roles. So I've helped with the fundraising, the marketing, the communications, the emails, and the casting and the organization and the glue. I'm like basically what I do in real life. I'm the mom. I'm the glue. And Brandon is the talent. So he is filming it. We're co-directing it. So I'm actually directing a lot of the questions. And Brandon is doing the editing and the music. He's literally composing the music and the commercial photography, like all of our content. Like we're just like doing it all. And that's one, because we don't have the money to pay anybody, but also we want to be really good stewards of the money that we've fundraised, and we've received one grant. And so we just want to be, just as thrifty as possible.
And to add to that, we've also been extremely lucky that we live in a community. We have friends, people that have volunteered to be in the reenactments and be extras in certain things. We've been working on the credits, and we have like over 120 or 30 something people that are actually on screen in this film. And the majority of those people are people from Dalton, Georgia. So
yeah, in addition to that, like Barbara was saying, we've done several focus groups. So we have picked groups of people. We've asked them to watch the film, give us feedback, and we have modified it from every single group. And so we have had like such tremendous support in our community, financially. And then also, as Brandon was saying, like just with actually putting the film together. So it's been a really cool experience. As we were driving just a couple of days ago, I was, just going through all the ways we could not have done this without our community involvement. And it's amazing. I mean, it's just been incredible.
So, yeah, I mean, and I got that energy when you had the focus group, and I didn't have a lot to say about it. I just was kind of sitting there taking the movie in, because so much of it was, I shouldn't say the movie, the film. I'll get that right. It was so shocking to me, because I did not know that they put petroleum in these things.
Yeah, they used to be
gross.
Yeah, they used to be derived from coal tar, I think, early on, and now many of them are derived from petroleum and stuff. Now they're kind of a byproduct of petroleum.
Well, and that's kind of honestly, when we went into this, whenever we began this journey, I was just like anybody who would be viewing our film, and that I knew nothing about it. And that was one of the most shocking truths. Like our first interview, the person we interviewed said, one, that many of these dyes are, derived from petroleum or byproducts of petroleum. So it's not even the petroleum, it's a byproduct of the petroleum, but also that it's a chemical. And I don't know why I've never thought about what a food dye is or what synthetic dyes are, but like it's literally a chemical that's added to our food that has no benefit other than to cosmetically make it look more beautiful so that we buy it. And so that reality really sat in, and I've been questioning a lot ever since I found that out.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, it was necessary with this film to talk to a lot of experts. So how did you get in touch with them? Because I'll let you talk about that, but I was kind of like, wow, they really went a long way.
Oh, well, you would be so proud.
It's actually, God's kind of opened the doors, and I'll let Whitney kind of go into that. That's all we can really say is like, luck in the sense of it wasn't anything that we did that got these people to be in the film. It was just a series of events that happened.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it was a whole lot of like knocking on doors with not a whole lot of response. But what's crazy, the people that didn't open the door, they were like the B team. Everyone that was the A team, the world's leading synthetic dye experts, they were like, okay. And so it wasn't that it wasn't that they weren't all just okay, but the fact that we had one person led to the next person. Yeah. So I'll go into that a little bit. So the first person I reached out to, we were actually on vacation, and I told Brandon, I was like, I think we should do it. Like, let's pull the trigger. I had just seen like an NBC article that was about Emily Snow and her family. And so she's a mom in our film. And so I read that article and I was like, wow, that's such a moving article and like such a crazy story. And that should be in our film. And so Brandon was like, okay. So I did a little bit of cyber stalking. I found Emily on Facebook and I found her in a group that she was in. And so I commented on the group and I was like, I've DM'd you. Can you DM me back? And so I reached out to her. She was like, okay. She was honestly a bit skeptical. And then from that, there's a researcher. She's a neuroscientist. And so she did a TED talk on synthetic dyes and her experience with her son. So I reached out to her and I emailed her. I sent her messages on Instagram. I went through all the normal channels. And then finally, she got back to me. And then we talked on the phone for like an hour and a half. And so she has connected us with Center for Science in the Public Interest, which Lisa with Center for Science in the Public Interest, she was a scientist. She was a lead scientist at Center for Science in the Public Interest, which is a nonprofit. And Brandon could actually tell you a little bit more about them. But anyway, Lisa connected us with all the other researchers. So because she's so well respected in the scientific community, they, just did whatever she asked. And we're so grateful. So it really is thanks to, honestly, the two of them, both Lisa and Rebecca, who really got this, the ball rolling.
So what have been and I think this may be a safe question, but what have been the biggest hurdles in this project? I mean, I imagine there were more than one, but.
Time and money.
I would say, like she said, getting the people to be a part of it and, getting Center for Science and the Public Interest on board, all that kind of just happened organically and naturally. So I can't say that was like a hurdle. And for a little, like Whitney said, the Center for Science and Public Interest, they're a pretty big deal. They spearheaded food labeling, having the nutrition facts on the back of food. And they also, were responsible for getting the added sugar line added on there. So they're kind of like the watchdogs of the food industry. They're, constantly trying to find things that aren't safe and kind of trying to be a voice for the public when it comes to food safety. So getting them on board was huge. And I would say the biggest hurdle is the fact that we don't do this full time. And so finding the time, I had no idea this was going to be a 2-year project when we started. But I also do work full time. So the time and having to come to the realization that I'm going to have to turn down some work to get this video done. I had to, I can't take on every job that somebody wants me to do. I have to be realistic and then, money, but the money thing, it panned out too. We did a couple of crowdfunding things. We were able to secure a grant, which has helped. And in the scope of films, we have not raised a ton of money, but like Whitney said,
the micro budget is under $1 million.
A small budget or low budget is under
$1 million. And micro is under 100,000.
Yeah, something like that. But but we were able to do that because
we're under 40,000. So
and the reason we were able to do it at that price is because of my background in film and photography. I do this. I've never done this stuff on a long form project, but I do this stuff every day on short form commercials and videos. So I have the skill set. It's just, I would say, the biggest hurdle has been time. And so, but same thing with that, the way things are happening and the way things are happening in the world and America with legislation and things happening in California and other states, now that we're close to being done, it feels like kind of the perfect time for it to come out. So
yeah,
really, we should probably fill them in about that, about all the legislation and the change. So if we haven't mentioned it already, our film is a science-based film, obviously, but we also are telling stories. So it's half science and, our stories are really supporting the science. But one of the craziest things to me that I've learned in filming this documentary is what we've learned about Red 3. And so Brandon is our Red 3 guru. So I would, it would not be okay if we didn't mention that.
Well, the reason
going on with Red 3.
The reason I know how to explain the Red 3 story is because I spent so many hours editing the people that we interviewed. So it's in my head, but Red 3 is a dye that the FDA themselves have come out and said causes cancer. And the way that came to be is around 1960, the FDA put the dyes that we were currently using on this like temporary approval list so they could continue to test whether they were safe or not. But there was kind of a loophole where companies could petition the FDA to ask for permanent approval of certain dyes. That happened for Red 3 in food and ingested drugs in the year 1969. In externally applied drugs and cosmetics, I think it was the same year, petitioned to permanently approve Red 3. For whatever reason, the FDA required them to do more testing. And so come to find out in the 80s, we learned that Red 3 causes cancer. And then in 1990, the FDA banned Red 3 in cosmetics and externally applied drugs because it never had gotten that permanent approval, but it had been permanently approved in food and ingested drugs. So they didn't ban it at the time in food. And so they've been saying for 34 years, they're going to take steps to ban Red 3 in food and ingested drugs. And it just hasn't happened. So they've drugged their feet. And the way they did that, they tested animals by feeding them Red 3 and they got cancer. And so that's why they banned it in cosmetics. So last year, California finally decided to do something about it. Some people might have heard there was like this thing going around called the Skittles ban. Yeah. And it was because that Red 3 was one of the items on the original bill. But they also had titanium dioxide. And this is also something a lot of people get confused. Titanium dioxide is in Skittles. And so right before the bill actually went to be passed, they actually pulled titanium dioxide off because they had so much industry opposition. Because Red 3 is used, but it's not used near as much as titanium dioxide. So they were afraid that the bill would get defeated. So they pulled titanium dioxide off the bill. So you hear a lot of times people saying that California has banned Skittles, but that's not actually true because Skittles don't have Red 3. But there are lots of other things that do have Red 3. So the governor did sign the bill, and so Red 3 will be banned in California. It is banned in California, but companies have until 2027 to take it out.
Well, and at that same time that I know, right? At that same time that they petitioned to ban Red 3 in California, Center for Science and Public Interest also petitioned the FDA to just remove it. And they've just been silent on the issue. They're just dragging their feet. Even though if you look on their website, you can find where they've showed the studies where Red 3, they know that it causes tumors. And legally, they are statutorily obligated to take out things in our food that we know causes cancer in animals or humans. So it's just, honestly, it's a bit surprising. It's a bit mind-blowing that something that we know causes cancer, something that they know causes cancer is still in our food. And although it's not used as commonly as Red 40, it's out there and it's oftentimes used in medication. And I think the most surprising place to me is Pediasure used Red 3 in their strawberry and in their chocolate. And so that's shocking. They have now, since they've banned it in California, they've said that they're going to be pulling it out, but that's what it took for them to take out cancer-causing Red 3. And for anyone that doesn't know what Pediasure is what you give your child that is struggling to gain weight, or a child that you feel like is just not that's undernourished and just that needs a little bit of extra help. So that, honestly, that was more than shocking. It was pretty frustrating, honestly.
And I think what that goes to show is that I think a big part of it is that the FDA just kind of spread too thin and the food industry kind of falls, under the rug a lot. But it shows you that you can't trust that just because it's legal or that, our government entities say something is safe, that it truly is. Because, this is 30 years. 30 years seems like 34 years. 34 years seems like a long time to get it figured out.
Before I was born.
Yeah. So.
Interesting. So you have done focus groups, and how have those been helpful?
I think that when you work on something for so long and you kind of know the ins and outs of it, it's hard to look at it with an outside perspective. And so it's good to hear where something's confusing to other people or where something feels like it lags or, like what people think could be better. Now, of course, one thing that we realized doing focus groups is one, it's very hard on your ego to have a focus group.
On Brandon's ego.
Hearing a bunch of people like
I was fine with it.
Tell you what you could do different, but you got to kind of all take it all with a grain of salt. There's going to be a lot of opinions. So you kind of look for patterns. You look for things that you hear in this focus group, in this focus group, in this focus group. And then you can kind of like, okay, if this many people are seeing problems or issues with this, maybe that's something we need to like look into and adjust and change. And so like that really was beneficial. And, we ended up adding a whole, like an interview that we had done, but we ended up not using it. But after some feedback, we ended up putting it in the film. So it was really beneficial. And I feel like now, we've got a film that feels good, that flows, that tells a good story that is going to get people to think,
so much better.
We haven't had a focus group that hasn't had people that have cried in it. So like, I feel like that's always a good sign for a film. So, I'm proud of it and I'm excited to get it out there.
I know they've been super helpful. And each time we have done a focus group, it's been better and better. And like our film, we're finally getting to the point where we were happy with it to begin with, but now, we just feel so good about it. We're so proud. And that would definitely not have happened without the focus groups. It has been really good to hear their feedback.
Mm-hmm. Brandon, from your point of view, not so much the content, not to put that aside, but as a filmmaker, what have you learned from this process?
Everything. He didn't know anything about filmmaking before.
Well, I've learned a whole lot about the process of actually making a film. The thing about documentaries, and this is, I didn't know this, it just kind of happened because it's how it happens. But like with a lot of documentaries, you don't really make a big outline for your film because you have no idea what people are going to talk about. You have no idea what your interviews are going to say. So you can kind of have an idea, but we knew we wanted to make a film and we knew we wanted to have these people in it. And we kind of had some talking points, but like the film did not evolve to what it is until I had everybody's and I could sit down and we could go through and mark, okay, these are good. Like we would spend hours of just like rewatching the interview and color coding different pieces. So we know, okay, this piece is really good. We definitely want to use this. This piece is kind of good. We'll look at that again.
This piece supports this piece. The craziest part has been, we have how many hours?
So we got almost 40 terabytes of footage. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff. And then also we've learned a whole lot about the business of filmmaking as far as like lawyers and E&O insurance and copyright and now we're looking into distribution and how complex that is. And, in the old days, a distributor would buy your film and give you a minimum guarantee. But nowadays, they pretty much just help you get it out there. And a lot of times you're responsible for the marketing and things like that. And so it's complex. And I'm so used to being able to work on a project, turn it over really fast and move on to the next thing. And so at the beginning, I thought this was not, I thought we would work on this for 6 months, maybe a year. And it's just, there's so many parts and so many pieces and the fact that we're doing it by ourselves. I think there's parts of that make it go faster. Like
for sure,
I'm not having to send my thoughts to an editor and then them send me a draft and be like, okay, I like this. So that kind of,
and we make decisions so quickly. Like we're not thinking about it because we don't have a team to work with, which has been really good because we just talk about it and then make the decision and then move on. But I honestly, whenever we started this journey, we did our initial fundraising, we crunched our numbers, and we really thought that we were just going to be paying for our flights to interview these people, to interview the researchers and to interview the families because we already had the equipment and, we really didn't have a whole lot of costs. But then we get into it, we thought $11,000 was going to cover everything. And we were so wrong. Just the storage for our film is how much?
I ended up having to buy another
hard drive.
For
Like $4,000 each.
They're about $3,000 each.
$3,000 each. Like E&O insurance is going to be over $5,000. Lawyers fees probably going to be like $6,000. We have a consultant we're working with. He is very great, but very costly. He's like a lawyer or more than a lawyer. And so, I mean, there's a lot of costs that we were not expecting, and a lot of hoops to jump through that we weren't expecting. We just thought we could put together a film and then that would be it. But we have to protect ourselves. We had to start a separate LLC because this documentary is controversial and it could hurt people's profit. We've started a separate LLC to just protect us from that.
Yeah. So I think the big question I have is, when is this going to be out?
Okay. So like I said, I feel like I'm pretty close. This is my B-roll. You obviously, if you're listening to this, you can't see it, but I've got some sticky notes. This looks like a lot of sticky notes, but compared to what it was, it's almost nothing. So mostly just a couple of B-roll shots left to grab. Like I said, we got to record that one little snippet of our family kind of wrapping the whole film up. And then I got to go through the painful process of, and I've kind of already been working on it some, but you really can't work on it too much till you have something finished. But I got to go through the painful process of taking this Excel spreadsheet that breaks down like every scene change. And it like says, what is this and who's in it, who owns it? Like, do you have a release form for this person? And so
What's the music?
I got to go through all that. And then I got to give that way my lawyer has that with her while she's going through our film to make sure that we don't have any copyright issues and stuff like that. And if we don't own the footage, why do we feel like it falls under fair use? And so that's going to be, hopefully that doesn't take too long. So hopefully we can have it into our lawyer's hands in the next couple weeks or month or so. And then once she signs off on it, then we we'll look for distribution. And we're already talking to a couple distributors, and we're waiting to hear back from them. So we could potentially already have a potential route for distribution, but we don't know for sure. So
a distributor is like a music producer.
No, it's like, if you think of music, it's like a record label.
There you go.
So a distributor is like, you can put your music out on your own, but and even less so now, record labels aren't needed, but a lot of times record labels would be what you needed to get your store physically into a store or on a platform or things like that. Same sort of thing with a distributor. Like, you can't go directly to the big streamers or can't go directly to some of the cable networks. Like, they don't take meetings and stuff with independent filmmakers. So to do that, you've got to go through a distributor who has those connections, and it's just an extra person to the team. Like, it's one thing, like, you can self-distribute a film, but that's all. That's like starting a whole nother full-time job. So
right.
We definitely want to work with a distributor. We got to find the right one. We want to make sure that our film gets out there to where it needs to go. We're not as concerned about making a huge chunk of money. I mean, as nice as that would be, like, we're more concerned about people seeing our film. We would like to make our money back. That would be ideal, but so we have spent some of our own money, but we just want to get it to the right distributor who specs it and sees it for what it is and wants to do the best for the film as well. So so hopefully, I mean, I can't say for sure because I don't know how long that process, but I feel like very likely that this film will be out this year, before the end of the year. Hopefully by the fall.
I think we'll know a release date by the fall.
Yeah. Well, like, I would love for it to come out in the fall or whatever. I would
love for it to come out before the new year. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. So people could be watching it and like New Year's resolution. It's a great resolution to try to start. Like,
people care about health.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm.
For 1 month.
So, anything else you want to say?
If you want to know more information or just be kept in the loop, you can go to our website, to dieforthedocumentary.com, and you can sign up to our email list. And if you go to, we set up a special one for podcast listeners. That way we can just kind of keep up with people who have discovered us through a podcast. And so that's just to dieforthedocumentary.com/podcast, like singular, not plural, no S at the end. And so you can go there and you can we're going to be putting all the podcasts we're on. You can watch them there, and you can also sign up for the list. And we'll keep you up to date. And you can also get a free PDF that shows you a list of all the dyes and places that you wouldn't expect to find them, and how you can kind of look out for them if you want to start eating a life or living a life
Well, and so
dye-free.
if you want to subscribe, like he said, we have some useful resources. I also send out a newsletter once a month. And so that has lists of like dye-free swaps. So like with each season, for Christmas, I have Christmas swaps. And so you can have all the dye-free candy canes and all the dye-free like fun stuff. You don't want yourself or your kids to miss out. And then also, we're going to be moving into even more so now into more of an advocacy role and policy change. And so if you want to be involved in that and the signing up and subscribing, we will definitely let you know like what's going on, what you can sign, what petitions are in the works. And we're also going to on our website, we're going to have templates to write your senators, templates to write your school board. And so we are doing that now. Like we are going through all that now personally. We're talking to our senators. We're talking to Georgia, and hopefully we're going to have a bill in Georgia pretty soon, and our local school board. And so we're ironing through that, and we're going to figure out the best way to do that and creating templates so that can be replicated.
Neat. This episode has been a conversation with two fascinating young people who happen to be married as well. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to the release of To Die For. And let me make sure everyone's clear, that's DYE, not E. Thank you so much, you guys, for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.